Hey, and welcome to this wonderful, accidental, and surprising live stream to fall in love with on Valentine's Day, taking a look at 4 amazing typefaces, not for Valentine's Day, but one. One could fit very well here. If you couldn't join because the live stream URL changed, sorry for that, it's tech stuff. But anyway, I'm super excited that somebody is at least watching, if it's not just me. If you're here and you want to type things in the chat, I'm very, very happy about that, to get a bit of feedback from you guys. But now let's dive into the Font Friday video digest of January, showing you all the highlights from the Font Friday newsletter. Perfect. Now, the first one here is Host Grotesk. This typeface is something that's very clean, very straightforward, but it has a special surprise, a special feature. Let me tell you about it in just a second. By element type, it is a variable font, has a weight axis only, but what I really enjoy about it is that it's very clean, but it has some quirky elements. For example, here you can see that it has very, very rounded shapes. You can see it's very geometric. And this is because it is based on Poppins. So Poppins was the foundation of this typeface of Host Grotesk, but it changed a bit. It was adapted in a way that some rounded elements became more and more squarish. So let's zoom in a bit to see this better. For example, here you can also see that the X height, the height of the lowercase letters, does increase a bit with Poppins, but it's decreased with Host Grotesk. Now, if you have any questions, type it in the chat, say hello in the chat. I'm always happy if somebody is giving me some reactions, that I'm not alone here in this big internet world. Now, let's see how Host Grotesk's details look like. I really like these band ascenders, descenders, the thick tittle, which is the dot on the eye, and also how some organic shapes are still present in that design. Now, the one surprising feature I wanted to highlight was that the typeface is a uni-width typeface. Now, what does this mean? A uni-width typeface is something that doesn't change the space needed when it gets bolder. So if it is a bit bolder, it doesn't change the reflow of text. So with light italic and bold, it takes up the same amount of space, even extra bold or regular. And that's something that can be quite handy when you're using it in UI or web design, because maybe you want to change the weight or the style on a hover or in some interaction, then it will not create any reflows. So keep that in mind. So that might be a cool tip for UI design here. So there's also one special character that changes that only my patrons can see. So if you're a supporter on Patreon, thanks a lot for your support. And as always, you find some suggestions for pairing Host Grotesk with other typefaces. Oh, Wim, hi Wim, happy to have you from Rotterdam. You kind of figured out how to switch to the other live stream. Yeah, I ruined the tech part. But let's move on to the next one, which is Stornoway. Stornoway is such a lovely typeface because it combines something historic with something very utilitarian. So let's take a look at that. It's by Lana Munro, and it is suited for so many different applications, from headings to long reading text to even user interface design, depending on the style you choose, of course. So let's take a look at Stornoway here. It is very, very Art Deco in a way. I love that chunky contrast. Look at it. Come on, this is so hilarious. It's just like bold, confident, but also with some sharp terminals here. Look at the C. So I really love that. And it has something very noble in all caps. The waist of the typeface, so this center line here, is a bit lower, and I also really enjoy some details here, like these arrows, and also in clean low contrast it has a certain flavor to it. Now, it comes from these so-called Scotch serif typefaces, Scotch Roman faces, which are known for its moderate contrast. They have very sturdy strokes, but refined details. And in that case, the details are not that refined because they are more approachable. This is like a Scotch typeface for our modern times. Here, New Caledonia is an example of these Scotch typefaces, and now comparing this with Stornoway, it kind of takes the same energy but makes it down to earth fancy. As I said, this is very elegant, but this is a bit more approachable, I would say. So the cool thing about this typeface are the flared terminals in the high contrast style. They are blunted when you change it to the low contrast style, but you can still feel there's something. They're not so linear. Like here, for example, you still see, looking at the S, that there's a bit of contrast in there, which can also convey this feeling of sophistication here. Now, it is very wide, which surprised me a lot. And this is also why I think it's not always working out for larger text, because it takes up a lot of space. So in smaller sizes, it works much better, I feel like. So for my taste, it's a bit too wide in the italics, especially also in the larger sizes. Now, there would be still the possibility to fine-tune the contrast and everything by using the variable font. But overall, it's a very versatile typeface that gives you a lot of possibilities for example, for editorial design, also for branding. So check this one out from Elena Munro, Stornoway. Now, let's shift gears, because this one is very different now. It is Blaka. Blaka is a mind-blowing experiment. I also did a short video about that one. Look it up on Instagram or here on YouTube Shorts. It is by Mohammed Gaber, and this typeface is really pairing two different worlds, two different scripts. Now let's take a look at it. It's a display typeface, obviously, because you should use it for large sizes. You should use it for striking text that pulls you in. Now, the interesting part is it kind of is inspired by this black letter tradition. It feels a bit rough, and it's almost like overlapping sticky tape that was attached onto itself. So there are two styles. You have this solid style, the hollow style, and then there is also a color font version of it, but let's take a look at that later. Now, here about this one, what I really enjoy is that the idea of this black letter contrasting script was translated into Arabic script. I don't understand any Arabic, but you kind of see how it still is kept, the idea. So we go from right to left, but what's very distinct about Arabic script, especially for this Kufic script, this very geometric, squarish script style in Arabic, is this continuous baseline. So this continuous baseline here is now broken up with these angled overlaps, because this fits more the idea of this kind of modular approach in black letter script. And also here you see somehow like serifs. So this is very exciting, and I really like that. If you also enjoy this kind of experiments, write in the chat. I'm always curious about your opinion here. So when it's about the angle, you see that it's very straight in traditional Kufic script, but here it is angled. It's also, the shapes get broken up. So this is kind of a continuous movement here at this loop here, but on the other side you have it very broken up at Blaka. Now there's also this Blaka ink version, which is in this color available. You cannot change the color, but it adds this like a depth and more dimensionality to this typeface. So this is also something that's only working on the web. So I would really encourage you to try this one out. However, a bit of a downside for me is that it kind of feels a bit wavering, so it's like moving or dancing up and down here. Also the kerning, looking at the apostrophe and the S, is not always that well crafted. Looking at the X, which also kind of jumps up. So it would be necessary to fine-tune things if you're using it for a poster. You can also see that things stick out here at the E, for example, or at the W. Yeah, the kerning, as I already mentioned. So not everything's perfect here, but you could definitely give it a shot for a logo type, for a poster, maybe for a title, somewhere where you can also manipulate things, or if you're just using it for one work, I think it's good enough. Now, moving on to the last one, which is also the loveliest one. It's Niven. Niven is a brilliant display serif typeface by Type Everything, by the Beasts of England. They designed this wonderful, lush typeface with so many ligatures, and yeah, it's like, come on, let's explore it. So this really fits the theme of Valentine's Day. Now, there are a lot of amazing swashes in there. You have two different styles. You have the upright, and then you have this italic style. The italic style definitely is very exuberant. It's very much alive. The caps still have something organic, but also almost something aggressive, don't you think so? It seems a bit aggressive. You're looking at these terminals, these sharp terminals here, almost feels like a bit aggressive, but then it is balanced out by this beautiful italics. Now, of course, it looks best when you use it here in light text on dark background. It always looks great, light text on dark background, obviously. And you see how these swashes can change the tone of voice of your text. And if you really craft this carefully, you could try to combine these swashes, how they kind of meld into each other. It's really just fun to play around with. Look at these interesting stylistic alternates. The thing is, these swashes are only available with the italics. The upright, very confident, sober, clear, still something organic, as you can see, but the italics, they're in the spotlight, aren't they? Now, what is interesting about this typeface is how it's engineered. There are a lot of alternatives available, but you really have to handcraft this or swap them out manually, because this is the default style. Then you can activate rare ligatures. Then you can activate the swashes. And then you can also swap the terminal forms and change here several distinct letters. Like here, come on, look at this R. Yeah, I'm speechless. However, it could have been engineered a bit better. It is not context aware. So when you activate, for example, here the swashes, then even though it's not the final letter in a word, it will swap out this W and then you have this gap. So you will always need to make this a manual choice. But there are a lot of options, so you can really explore them. It's up to you basically, but you still kind of need to combine this. So the swashes are not something that will work right out of the box for some automated text like a title on a website or something like that. So keep that in mind. Now, there are also some interesting suggestions for pairing this typeface, but that's basically it. That's Niven, and I think these four typefaces are just a very nice combination. If you're not already subscribed to the Pimp My Type newsletter, every Friday, like today, I send out one font recommendation for you so that you don't have to keep track of all the things that are coming up or all the hidden gems that we already have. I'm always alternating between a free and a paid font. Here in this edition today it was Blaka, which was free, and then it also was host Grotesk, which were the free fonts, and then we have Stornoway and Niven, which are paid fonts, because it's always worth to invest in the visual appearance of your text, of your type. So I hope you enjoyed this one. If you have any questions or any ideas for upcoming fonts that I should review, I would love to get them in the comments, or shoot me an email to oliver@pimpmytype.com. Subscribe to the newsletter, link is below this video, and thanks so much. I wish you still a happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, it's very cheesy, I know. So